And then Daniel, with that, if we can bring Sneh on, who is running for the county council seat for West Maui. And Sneh, welcome. Our process is that each of our interviewers will be asking you about questions that'll last about 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next interviewers. So again, thank you for being on and running for the county council seat. And please, first of all, Sneh, if you could just give a little brief overview of your background and why you're running for office. I mean, it takes a lot of internal strength, a lot of gumption to say, okay, I'm going to be on the campaign trail and I want people to vote for me. And it really takes a lot within inside of you. So what has urged you on to do this?
Paul, I've been getting asked that question a lot, and asked myself that, before I made that decision. The process has probably been, months in the making. It took a month to just convince my wife to maybe do it. And so got approval there, first and foremost. So, why now? For me, my background, initially, I was born in India. And I always say I was brought to America because I didn't have a choice. I was young. I was 6 at the time. My family moved to Chicago. And then the last 20 some years, I've been living out here in Hawaii. So I've lived here the most that I've ever lived anywhere. I've gotten involved in the Lahaina Town Action Committee about almost a decade or so ago now, it seems like, and just started that process of engaging in the in civic engagement, right? And getting involved in community events. I felt like right now, my highest use can be served in maybe a slightly higher position for all of Maui and definitely for Lahaina at this time. The COVID-19 definitely was a situation for me. I was like, you know what, this is the time to get involved and make a difference and be of service.
So what specifically, when you talk about service, when you look at the county council and their broad range of experience that they have, how could you bring in something different that could really support then your service to our community?
Yeah, so I think I have a varied background. I started out in the hard sciences, graduated from University of Illinois in Chicago, have dual degree in kind of the arts, photography, film, electronic visualization, and more of an arts background. But for me, on the business side, for pretty much the past 20 years, I've been in that capacity, managing businesses on Front Street that are multi-million-dollar businesses, and I feel I can bring some of that business sense to the county, as well as kind of a balanced approach to things. I feel like I've been a great facilitator in my position and how I've served the community on the West Side so far in the Lahaina Town Action Committee. And I feel that I can contribute, in terms of bringing people together and for the betterment of all, in a way. And, one of the other things I want to say too is I've also recently, in the last couple of years, been involved in a couple of amazing programs. One is the Kaipu Kukui program that's sponsored by MEDB in the county of Maui. And that also has kind of shaped me to take this next step, because it's, if you're not familiar with that program, it's a great program that looks at all sides of Maui Nui in a way that's immersive. You really get your hands into the process and look at all the different layers of the county, as well as some of the state levels. And then this last year, we were, my wife and I were accepted into the Purple Maya Accelerator Program. It's a Hawaiian Innovation Accelerator Program. And we were able to get our project, Kuka, which is a civic engagement application, mobile civic engagement application that allows you to testify for county council meetings via a mobile app. So that's been exciting. And we're working currently right now with Code for America, Code for Hawaii, Ben, those guys over there have been amazing, and we're soon to launch an MVP that I think is going to help. And a lot of the right now with the timing of COVID and how I really can commend the county and the council for the Blue Jeans approach that's been taken. I think it's now more than ever needed, that sort of remote capacity to engage in the process. And so, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And that certainly is a reflective of what we're doing right now here on the Zoom video. And it really does bring a whole other dimension to interviews, but also to having testimony. So thank you for that. Sylvia, why don't you go, and then we'll have Jason and then Daniel.
Aloha, Sneh. Did I say your name correctly? Sneh Patel?
Yeah, Sneh. It's like kind of like snake, but without the K.
Okay, thank you. So you must be familiar with the Lahaina injection wells issue. What is your position on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I followed that very closely, the Supreme Court case all the way to now, and where it's at. I live in Lahaina. My kids swim in the water there, and we got to find a better way forward with that process. And I supported the Sierra Club's initiative. I actually went to testify, but there were so many testifiers that I wasn't able to testify on behalf of Lahaina Town Action Committee. But I feel that there's a better way that we can approach the way we look at wastewater and how we release it. And absolutely, it's one of those things that affects the West Side community greatly. And there's, not just the Lahaina, there's the Maui injection wells as well. And so there is huge capacity for us to improve on that level. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, thanks. And so you have been active in the Lahaina Town Action Committee. So you mentioned that you testified about that issue. What other issues does that committee deal with?
So right now we're dealing with, the economic fallout, I think, of COVID-19 and trying to look at our members, small businesses that are in Lahaina on the West Side, Front Street as well, and how we can help support them and lobby for support both at the county level, state level. We talked to Angus McKelvey, we talked to Tamara Paulton, who's our West Maui Council member, on ideas that we can help support the businesses, the small businesses, especially in Lahaina. Other things that we've gotten involved in is the Clean and Safe program. We lobbied heavily with the Lahaina Town Restoration Foundation to implement with the issue of homelessness along Front Street and in Lahaina. And so we got a pilot program approved with some county funds initially. And unfortunately, COVID hit, and we weren't able to kind of start that pilot program. But we're excited to start that, I believe, as soon as we can with some of the funds that have already been allocated for that issue as well in Lahaina Town. So we've got involved with that. We put on other events throughout town as well to, have some economic vitality throughout town. We host some large events. We host the Friday town parties as well. And so, I mean, I've testified on a lot of different issues over the years. I can't think of them all right now, but the main things right now are this, supporting the small businesses, the homelessness issue as well. That's been kind of our top main priorities.
Okay, great. And you mentioned another program, and I didn't catch the full name of it. It's with the MEDD something Kapui program. The layers of the county.
Yes, the Maui Economic Development Board. MED. Yeah, and at that time with Jeannie Vogue, and that's also a partnership with the County of Maui. Yeah.
Is it the Kaiku Kapui program? Is that the one you're getting at, Sylvia?
Yes, the Kaipu Kapui. Yeah, it translates to Crucible of Light. Actually, I learned that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, tell us more about how that program works and your involvement.
Sure. So the Kaipu Kukui program is a vetted program. You have to apply for it. There's multiple, interview process that goes through. So it's identifying the top, and brightest talent out there in Maui County that wants to get involved in all different levels of civic engagement, to nonprofit world, to environmental issues. So it's just a great program because it really shows you all the different layers and everything that's involved in making these decisions that we walk through, like how the council decides on some of these major issues and how difficult it is because there's so many sides, right? And so how can you decide on all of these different issues and sides without knowing firsthand what's at stake and what's involved? So you start off with looking at transportation and going through the system that we have right now, the hub and spoke system, right? So we're dealing with the Young Brothers issue as well, right? That's going to be coming up. And so we look at transportation, water, housing, and 1 minute, I get it. All the different layers, economic diversity, all of those things, education. And we take these holovies and we go on these field trips. We went to Molokai, went to Lanai. Some people are lucky enough to go to Kaho'olawe and plant trees. So it's just, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I hope a lot of my cohort is watching right now, but this is the idea behind that program. I started with Clyde Sakamoto, Jeannie Skog, some of the OG players, I like to say, in Maui County. And it's to bring about this civic engagement to the next level for the next generation.
Thank you, Sneh. Thanks for your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll have Jason next.
Hey, Sneh, aloha.
Aloha, Jason.
What seat are you running for again?
West Maui Council.
County Council, okay. And these guys all ask questions about what's your opinion of this and of that. Do you come in with any things that you would be adding on the council? You talked about your background in business sense. A lot of people have ideas for programs and then you try to figure out where to get the money. Do you have anything that you think you can add to the mix in the council that would help be able to accomplish some of these things? I know now, for example, people talk about creating jobs or housing, but I'm curious what you might add to the mix in the council.
I hope I add a fresh voice to it, but my involvement in Lahaina Town Action Committee recently, like I said, we met with our current West Maui rep and talked about using the idea and some of the money for assisting the small business association, small businesses. But, I think a better plan is really just, if we can allocate the $66 million and how that's going to be transferred back into the community in a way where we can start testing and bringing back tourism in a healthy way. That's one of the things for me is how do we bring back tourism? Because everyone's saying it's never going to go back to an old way. But we have to ramp up to that. And so right now, for me, it's like, how can I assist in helping some of these ideas about bringing innovation, bringing diversity, economic diversity? I think step one is let's recover the economic engine that we've had in a safe way and do it in a better way so that we can generate the revenue to have people be able to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head. And then once we get that, we can then invest more in economic diversification, right? And building a local capacity, which realistically is going to take some time. So, we're not going to just be able to turn the switch on and allow that, diversity to just all of a sudden happen. So, I think the COVID-19 situations has created an opportunity to look at all the shortfalls for many of the systems that we exist on the state level, local level. And it's opened our eyes and saying, look, hey, we need to look at some changes over the next, few months and years. And look, we got hit by an earthquake, but the economic tsunami is still coming. And in Hawaii, I want to be part of some of those different protocols and plans that are going to be created. And hopefully I bring kind of some of the business sense, but also a fresh look on things. I think right now, the way that, tourism has been dealt with, I think we can all say that, the amount of tourists that we had in Maui County on any given day, what did that cost? And what are the cost versus benefits of that? Our TAT revenues restricted, and people weren't spending more, and it was taxing our resources. We know that. So how can we justly transition, right, to this? We talked to Shay Chan Hodges as well, and my wife does as well. And how do you justly transition to tourism model that actually regenerates our communities, right, and gives back rather than just extracts? This extractive model is something that during the Purple Maya Hawaiian Innovation Accelerator program we really dealt with. Is like, how do we get away from this extractive model to where we're being able to, from the top down, create something that's regenerative. So, for example, I think, our county can work with the HTA. We worked with them in the Lahaina Town Action Committee capacity and creating a new marketing campaign that's measurable, accountable system of, goals, benchmark standards that's going to allow us, to really look at a big picture and say, this is how we want to market Hawaii, Maui. And that takes kind of cooperation at the state level as well. So our hotels, we can help, I can help assist. I know a lot of these hotels on the West Side, how they can reduce their footprint even further. The Grand Wailea is a great example. I think if you guys know some of their initiatives about zero water, usage by 2020, I think. And then elimination of single-use plastic by 2021. What if we can get all the hotels on board? That's where I really see myself in adding the value, is being able to get people to come to the table, talk, and create these sort of ideas. I think everyone talks about photovoltaic and off-grid, some of those ideas I have. I don't know how much time we have, Paul, but I could lay it all out. I can lay out my plans, and Jason, if that's what you'd like me to do, definitely.
I'm looking for where you're going to find the money. That's what I was asking about.
Yeah, I think
we all have ideas. I'm looking for, what are you going to add? A lot of us have ideas, and we've said some of this stuff, and you have good ideas there. I'm just trying to see on what you're adding to the mix. That's why I'm asking it.
Yeah, I think that my sales background, right, and I know how to present this in a way that's going to bring economic prosperity in a way for all these elements, the hotels, and these different industries. So, but the funding's, the funding's there, right? The state, federal government, the other part of it is, I think that, with tourism, there's a lot of places right now. McKenna, they just started that program where, tourists are paying for parking. We've talked about it in Lahaina Town, where we start maybe having parking be something, if you on the street, you're paying for. So there's ways that we can start generating this money. And I think that the tourists can give more too when they're coming here. There could be a fund that's allocated specifically for some of these ideas that comes in from a separate tax that's paid. And so, when I think when you look at where we can get the money, I understand, Jason. It's money. It always comes down to that. It's like we have ideas, like where can we get the money? But I got to get in there, and I do think that the money can be found. I truly believe that if we get enough momentum going for some of these issues, the money will be there.
Great. Thank you for that. And thank you for the question, Jason. We'll go on to Daniel next, and then I will get the next question.
Aloha, Sine.
Daniel.
So thank you for coming on.
You got
Jason. What was that? Okay, so let's see. I'm going to start with this one question. We'll see where we can get. Let's see. As a public representative, it is a duty to face the truth and to act righteously. These islands reflect the lowest voter turnout in the United States. On May 15th, 2019, Dr. David Keanusai gave a presentation to the Maui County Council, evidencing the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 and showing clear violation of domestic and international law with the ongoing illegal United States military occupation of the Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands. As a candidate for public representation, how do you rectify handling the truth of Dr. Sai's presentation? as well as the works of the Ko Hawaii Pai'aina Office in Hilo, Ke Yamoku Kapu, Henry Noah, Amelia Gora, Pampikana Hele, Leon Su, Dr. Desaias, Madame Ruth Bolome, etc. How do you rectify the compliance of the law and restoration of occupied lands?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy subject. And look, I was, like I said, I was born in India. I was also colonized, and I definitely understand, the stance Hawaiian people have. And, I come from a tribal country that, like I said, was also colonized. So I feel there's some similarities in the background in that sense. But in Hawaii's case, I think space needs to be created at the table, right? Where all of these different voices to come together and see how it moves forward together. And I'm sorry if that's a short answer or a simple answer, but there's a lot of different within even the Hawaiian community voices. And so if we can get everyone together at the table and start a conversation, I'd like to start there.
Okay, have you watched the presentation by Keanu Sai and the Maui County Council?
Yes, I have. Tamara Paulton had shared that on Facebook, and yes, I had watched that.
Okay. And I'm going to switch gears here. Your business sense, your business management skills that you have. You mentioned the $66 million that have come through, and is that the money from the CARES Act that you're mentioning?
Yeah, the money from the CARES Act needs to be used by December 31st, I believe the mayor said, and those are the stipulations. So there's a short amount of time to be able to use that, and I think that a big portion of that can go towards testing in Kahului for travelers to come in safely. So it'd be testing on the mainland side as well as a rapid test when you get here. And I think that's been what's been proposed to get tourism back to some levels here. Which I think is going to help the local businesses.
Okay, so because you had mentioned that bringing back tourism is sort of the most immediate economic move that can make. And at the same time, we're seeing how much of a hit this has caused. So would you be also supportive in a diversifying the economy in some way? And what would that look like to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think I talked about it earlier where, we know now from this COVID situation, we absolutely have to diversify. And what does that look like? Let's, there's a lot to that question, what it's going to take. Let's, I think build our capacity to be more self-sufficient, right? To grow our own food, generate our own clean electricity, to be a leader in education, right? Like if they always say, like if Benjamin Franklin came back right now in a time machine, the only thing he'd recognize is our education system. That's something. Let's use the technology. Paul, you got to chuckle out of that one. Green design, telehealth. These are things that I think even Tamara Paulton, she talked about the orthopedic doctors coming over, and I really like that approach. Is I wish Kihei has a tech park. If we can get Lahaina Tech Park and maybe a little Maui Community Center, Education Center. Let's leverage also some of the people that live here that are super wealthy. You have across this, street, Lanai, Larry Ellison, these individuals, Oprah lives here. I mean, these individuals can get involved on a large, massive level. Like I said, I'm absolutely in favor of economic diversification, but it's got to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. It's got to be well planned. And I think it needs to be looked at from top down. Hawaii's always been innovative. There's a great person that I learned from, Pono Shim. He's the Office of Economic Development Executive Director out on Oahu. And during the Purple Maya, kind of process, we talked about that, how Hawaii has had to be innovative because of how remote it's been. Imagine the first people coming across boats and looking at terraced farming, vertical farming, right? And then coming closer from the boats and seeing, fish ponds. and being like, wow, these guys are fishing. He was like, these guys are fishing the water, farming the water. We just started farming on land. So, I think we got to all work together. I think Maui can be a leader in economic diversification. We can look to food security, agriculture, education, and then, and of course, affordable housing's got to be thrown in the mix there. So there's a lot of issues that face us, and hopefully I can help, bring people to the table,
Right.
move things forward.
So you had mentioned, how you came from India, and even India was colonized once. Gandhi was definitely a very impactful individual, and we can see this similar piece of the Kapu Aloha that's here. And bringing people to the table, being a county council member, very quickly, can you just describe how your civic engagement has shown you either pros and cons of the current council process, and how you might improve a voice for the people?
Yeah, one of my platforms is really, like I said, with the Kuka application that we have been working on, is really the civic engagement side. There needs to be more voices. I look at our system in the county, and even all systems, right? Even our body as a system is input, output. The better information you can get, and the more information you can get, the output is going to be that much better. And right now, the amount of people that can engage is kind of restricted based on time. You have to show up at such time. You have to, have such and such time, and then that's it. And then if so many people are in front of you, you may not even get to speak. So the Kuka application and the civic engagement, I think that's where I can be a strong leader in that, in terms of making sure that we have enough input through the process. So getting more people involved in testifying, and just so you guys know that it's not it's a phone application that's being built that you can create a 30-second video about if you're going to be talking about shoreline erosion, you can show that right then and there and shoot it off to the council members as your testimony. So it's as simple as that. It makes it accessible for everybody. And so hopefully, I'd like to say that me having lived in so many different bubbles throughout my life, I can pretty much place myself in anywhere and find that I can be successful. And if I win the county council seat, I know that I can do some good there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to pass it to the next questioner.
How I fit it, I won't know until I get there, really, as well.
That's true. So, but let's continue to ask questions about then how it will be when you get there, Sneh. So I guess one question that we have in terms of just follow up around the issue of tourism. We had our county council, our Maui county plan, where we looked at a carrying capacity of about 33% would be ideal for our county, and yet we were going up to about 42% prior to the pandemic. What are your thoughts about going back to then the capacity that we had, the 42% versus a much lower controlled capacity for tourism?
Yeah, I would say, look, I would be all for 66,000 visitors a day, I think is the number where we were at. And how does 50,000 look? I don't, I think we won't know those, how those numbers play out until they play out. But I would be for a, something that's the numbers that are less stressful to our environment and our people, and provide more, definitely. So and well managed, better managed. And I think that starts with conversations all the way from the top in the Hawaii Tourism Authority, as well as the state level, and talking about how we project Hawaii, and for people coming here, coming with that sense of aloha. And so yeah, I'm for looking at a better managed system, but I think that there's so many parts to that, Paul, that we're gonna need everyone to get involved in that. process, and it's not just going to happen. It's got to be well thought out, because just as you had a shift from, plantation to tourism, now it's like you have to now come to tourism to a better managed tourism, right? And something that fits into that overall economic diversification that we've talked about. So
great, thank you for that. I guess one of the things that would really help, look at our control of our system that we have is our water, and especially when we look at the types of crops we want to grow, where we grow the crops, and also look at really, any type of development that we do is dependent on that. So would you support the county asserting eminent domain over the EMI system in order to administer the public trust water resource for the food security necessities of our community?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a hot topic as well. I do think the county should own and manage our own water. It's a people's water. It's all of ours. The water will be here after we're gone. It's this water. But yeah, but I also know that there's a lot of stakeholders, right? And so, what I support is a legal path to county ownership and management of EMI. And I think Councilmember Rollins, I watched her. I'd ask you, hey, what kind of questions are going to come up, Paul? And you're like, hey, just watch the video. So I did, and I watched all of them. They're amazing. I think we got great talent, right? But Councilmember Rollins, in her interview, I think she broke it down pretty well. And those of you who haven't seen it, you should watch it. And she broke it down. The numbers work, right? So.
Great, thank you for that. I want to ask you a question too about really this whole post-COVID realm that we're doing right now, and looking at your thoughts about the governor's assertion towards mandatory vaccines for children and adults. It's a question that has been come up with a lot of our members of the Maui Pono Network, and where are you at with that?
Yeah, look, the health and safety of our community, it's got to come first. If I'm also looking at it from, everyone has an individual right for themselves to put in their body what they want. And we also have this thing called the immune system, that and herd immunity, right? So I think that if it's a mandatory vaccination, and we got to look at, is that safe for everyone? What's the safety levels? I mean, the vaccines take years and years to develop, and no, it's a tough call. It's going to be a tough decision. I know that. I don't know all of the ins and outs and the information, the research that's going to go on through. I mean, I'm going to look at all that. But I do believe you have a right to know, to know what you're putting in your body. That's the last free place you have is your body. You can control what you put in it. Like I said, input output system. You put good stuff in, good stuff's going to come out. I don't know. You need more on that, Paul?
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And another question about what happened really back in 2016 was a charter amendment to allow our county council to obtain legal advice from a source not connected with corporate counsel. And basically, that was not allowed because of insufficient language. Would you look at then supporting a shift and change in the charter amendment so that the county council could get outside legal support or advice, especially when we're dealing with a county council who may have a different agenda? I mean a corporate council that might have a different agenda.
Yeah, I mean, you always want, your lawyer on your side. The other side's got a lawyer on their side. So I would support that. You're not talking about the county manager
No, I'm not talking about the county manager. That's a different amendment that's going up for vote. And by the way, then now that you brought that up, where do you stand on that issue? And where's your support in terms of the shifts to the charter amendment?
Yeah, look, I'm all for transparency in the process, and I'm all for measures that are going to create that. So, accountability, making sure that there's efficiency in the system. These are important things to me, and if the county manager position seems right now that it can accomplish those things, right? In the Lahaina Town Action Committee, for example, I've been there, like I said, almost a decade, so I've seen all sorts of people come and go. And for me to start, and for all of these nonprofits to start at zero, like day one, where we're almost teaching the individual that's supposed to be helping us, that maybe is not the right workflow. I look at it as, if we can have an individual that kind of knows all these different areas and is able to manage them, and when a new administration comes in, it's not like all of a sudden, okay, nobody knows exactly what this is for, or that's for. I mean, that's powerful. That makes the system more efficient, and I'm all for it. I'm all for that.
Great, thank you. And Sylvia, why don't you ask the next question, and then we can go to Jason.
As long as we can find the right person, though. I mean, that's the key.
It's always the key, especially when you empower someone to oversee a lot of different aspects of a nearly $1 billion corporation. I mean, we're up to over $800 million. So yes, getting the right person for the job. Sylvia, why don't you go next?
Yes, Sneh, does Lahaina Town have any plan for sea level rise? And what would you suggest? And also for all of Maui?
Yeah, so I mean, that's huge, and especially in Lahaina, Front Street, where it's at. There is a plan right now that is the seawall structuring process that's happening in Lahaina Town right now, like where the county came out and assessed with an outside group looking at how they're going to reinforce some of the rail and the seawall there. And it looks like they're moving forward with that plan. It's in kind of the development and planning stages, but they came out and asked our input on what type of structure should be used, because it's historical district designation, but they're looking at fortifying and making sure that seawall area along Front Street and Lahaina is definitely shored up. And I know that they're looking at the same thing with the harbor as well at the state level and the DLNR. And so, yeah, I mean, we got one road in and out as well for Lahaina. And so that's a huge issue that we need to make sure that, it's got it's got to be faced like head on. It's not a kind of if, it's a when, type of scenario. So.
Right. Yeah, thank you. And also you mentioned that Lahaina has the Clean and Safe program. It's a pilot program that you're looking forward to. Can you describe more what that is? And depending on how well it goes, of course, if that's something that you think might be useful for all of Maui.
Yeah, the Clean and Safe program started out in Wailuku. And that's a program that gets the homeless off the street into some sort of assisted housing if needed, gets them the help. One of the things that didn't allow us to progress a bit faster was the fact that on the west side, we didn't have a mental health component associated with that program. We didn't have a place where mental health Kukua could come over. And we did finally find that space for them. So, because that's the other part of this is, we want to assist these individuals, right? And get them back on their feet if that's something that they want to do. Then the mental health part is a huge part of it. So if you're not linking those two together, you're not gonna find success. And they found that in Wailuku. And so we would take these individuals that are homeless, give them support that they need, get them back on their feet, and then get them back into the community, right? Working. And that could be in Wailuku, they do the cleaning of the streets and make sure that things are looking good. And so it's kind of a circular program that I'm kind of excited about it starting and seeing how, and it comes from a sense of compassion when, you know, these individuals are being removed from this, you know, the areas that they shouldn't be at. It starts with a compassion first approach, right? And so I'm excited to start it, and hopefully we can do it sooner than later.
Yeah, thank you, Sneh. I hope that goes well for you guys. It sounds really good. So also for transitioning into more diversified economy and food security, how is the best way to support small farming?
Give them free land. You know,
that sounds great.
I mean, you know, honestly, you know, in Indian culture, you always had a garden. You grew your own food. Food security that's a global issue, right? But in Maui, we can actually self-sustain ourselves. In the height of the Hawaiian population, the kingdom, it's like 1.2 million. We're pretty much around the same, and they self-sustain, you know, they had abundance. And how can we get back to a feeling of abundance and whatever that means to you? I mean, I'm all about that. And so, yeah, if you're saying like, how do we help our farmers? Well, we're always subsidizing them. They're always in debt. It's hard to grow something. If you try to grow something, you know, it's hard and it's not cheap. So how about we give them free land or land for $1? I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Would you support a Department of Agriculture for Maui?
Yeah, I mean, Molokai has it. When we went to Molokai, they have the program over there, the USDA. You know, I don't know if you've been there, Sylvia, but yeah, I think that if that entity is closer and can do work more efficiently, I'm all for that. Why not? It gets us
thank you
faster, right?
Okay, Sneh, I'll pass you along to the next questioner. Thank you very much for your answers.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jason again.
Hey, Jason.
I feel like a different questioner than these guys. These are guys are wondering about how you feel about things. And I keep rounding third and going to budget. It's great to talk about we can do this, we want to do that. It'll happen in time. We are now facing crisis in finances. When you talk about tourism, I had a conversation with our lieutenant governor where he's looking at, you know, the hotels. This may be an opportunity. Someone's going to sell a hotel because the price will be right and the state can afford it. And then they can find a way to house 4,000 homeless. You know, I'm just talking. So when you're talking about how to do these things, I'm wondering, you know, wherever, what do they say? You push it in here to try to solve a problem, it's coming out there. Have you been looking at how to make this work with our limited resources? And when you go to council, you seem to talk to Tamara Paulton. So what are you adding and what can you add to, why I was going back to your business background, what can you add to the mix to solve some of these problems? What do you have in mind specifically?
Yes, I look at it as solving any problem. I need to get all the information first, you know, and that's the way that I work. When you're talking about these budget shortfalls, look, when the PPP runs out and that assistant runs out end of July, that's going to be, you know, a huge economic liability, right, for all the individuals that aren't back to work yet. And so when you're talking about these hotels leaving and being bought by the state, I don't really think that's realistic.
Really?
I don't think
How are hotels going to fill if they have no tourists and they're running into problems?
Get tourism back, Jason. I think that's the number one priority right now in terms
That's why I'm asking about this. Okay, so that's what you think. All right.
My idea is to bring that safely back to a number that's manageable for all, that, you know, we come to a compromise.
So now that you did that and tourism is back, how are you going to help the homeless? We got these homeless and we got to do something. So I was thinking tourism is down and we can buy something. That's how do you have any thoughts of how to?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's with the COVID-19 situation, the houses, the structures that were built recently to house individuals. I think,
Have
perhaps.
you seen those? Have you seen those little boxes? You're going to put a family in a little box. If you look at it, you'll see how way off target that area is. That's what they've proposed. So here we are. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, they've come, so here's the thing. I think there were, I go back to Pono and what he taught us. And because I think it's important when we're looking at this from all levels, let's look at it in the past. There were no homeless in Hawaii. Why? Because that's not something the Hawaiians believed in. That's how you had Hanai children, right? That person was on the street, or that kid was on the street, they got brought in, and that's what I think we need to look at right now too, is how do we help each other?
So you're ready to bring in homeless into your world? I'm trying to get realistic on.
I've helped individuals. I have friends right now that I used to work with that are homeless on the street. I see them. I have 2 individuals that I vividly remember working with that are on the street, and I help out where I can. But yeah, you're right. Would I be bringing them into it I have small kids? And probably not. But, Tommy Russo and I had a recent conversation about this, and we thought that Matson, or one of these big shipping companies, what if we can get, these container homes built and donated and work with these, stakeholders that have a huge footprint in Hawaii, and start to look at them and investing and paying for some of this, right? I think that for a long time, tourists and individuals have gotten a free ride on a lot of stuff out here. And it's time to say, look, we have issues and problems. You have this. Let's try to figure out where we can synergistically work together to create something that works for all sides. And so when you talk about the money side of it, let's use some of those huge stakeholders that exist. Like I said,
they're asking for $25 million right now, or they're going to start cutting back on our barges. It's not like these big stakeholders have resources. That's why I'm asking.
Well, that's, I think, what
an unusual time.
Down to bringing tourism back, Jason. I mean, that's the thing, is that it all of that is linked together,
Yeah.
That's all linked together. And so that's why I think that's important. Our first step right now is to bring tourism back to a healthy level.
Well, we might not have the money to get the barges here to be able to have food when the tourists come, right? So we need to plant more food and have local gardens and all these things, but they take money. So I'm just trying to see what you're adding to the mix in this. Okay. Paul?
Yeah, Sneh, if you could just respond to that, then we need to move on to the next question after that.
Yeah, I think, Jason, what I'm adding to the mix is kind of that position that I believe that I can bring people to the table together to create sort of a coalition and a togetherness that's gonna translate to some of these, bigger projects happening. And how exactly I'm going to do that, I'm not going to know until I get there. I think, that's really all I can say is I get it done, and I hope to do so in the council.
Thank you for that.
I hope by November we have something left here.
So if we can move on, we have one final question. Daniel or Sylvia, do you have any final questions that you'd like to ask? No?
Yeah, I do. I totally do.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, so all right, so Sneh.
Yeah.
We're talking about your experience here with the vacation rentals, with the hotels, with tourism. Now, of course, this is the big boom economy that is on the islands right now. And many people that I've spoken to have reflected in the community, well, for all these people to come here on vacation is one thing. Yet the people who are here and who have made Maui their home, Maui County, Molokai, Lanai, it's different than being on vacation. So when it comes to economy, your experience is obviously very to come to the table with that's important. So what I'm questioning is that when it comes to this transition of this new post pandemic, that what is your overall sense? Because obviously we can't do the solid tourism anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, we got to find a better way forward. Absolutely, Daniel. And I think that there's going to be room for us locally to look at how we can strengthen our education system internally to get our kids to have higher paying jobs and that they don't have to leave and be able to live here. I mean, that's one of the things why I want to get involved is I have 3 kids and I want to make sure that if they want to, they can stay here and have a nice life and have a high paying job. And so I think that I don't know if that is kind of what you're maybe I'm not understanding.
Well, that's so that's definitely getting warm there. What I'm looking for is what with your business sense can you reflect is like what's next? What do you see? There's tourism and what?
What I see is for us to leverage technology and being able to have us in our population working remotely on a high level. So we got telemedicine as one thing. You can also look at creating jobs maybe in the photo and film industry where things are shot on Oahu but then edited out here. And creating sort of like an editing lab, being able to create kind of a system where you create the infrastructure, like same thing in Kihei with the high-tech computing lab, doing it in Lahaina, doing it in other places that allow for people to work remotely and still at a high level, high-paying jobs is what I'm looking forward to creating. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
Thank you for that, Sneh. And we just asked a lot of questions over this past 50 minutes or so, and I'm just wondering, Sneh, if there's anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to add before we end our interview.
Yeah, well, so I've been getting asked this a lot of why I'm getting involved and what do I bring to the table, and I think that for me. I care deeply for what happens in Maui. There's no exit strategy for me. When I was brought from India to Chicago, where I grew up, I had a feeling of nervousness. I just had this feeling where I wasn't healthy. The only 2 places I've ever felt home were in India and Hawaii. And I'm not willing to give up that feeling of going back. So people are like, oh, you just leave. I'm invested in making Maui Nui the best it can be, helping the state and helping out where I can. And so I hope that excitement, that energy, that the fact that I've rooted myself here with 3 kids and they're the same thing. It's no exit strategy for me. I'm here and I'm willing to work. And the idea of work, we talk about like how we're going to incentivize this, incentivize that, in the Indian culture, there's no, like my grandma used to say when I was young, I used to say, thank you, Grandma, thank you. She'd be like, why are you thanking me? I do that for you because you're my grandson and you do what you do for me because I'm your grandmother. There's no word for thank you in our language. And for me, that was a powerful moment because you don't have to thank people for doing what they're supposed to be doing. You don't have to incentivize people to doing what's pono in the Hawaiian culture. It's called doing what's pono. You should be doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so I hope I bring some of that, level of like, just all the different areas. And it's too short of a conversation to get to you, but I hope you guys get a sense of who I am through this, because this is the first time people are meeting me. And of course, it's on a virtual level, but if you met me personally, I give you a hug because that's the kind of guy I am. So.
Well, thank you, Sneh. We're going to have to do the hug virtually. And with that, though, there's ways that people can continue the connection, though. Could you provide some information about how people who are watching this video could get in touch with you, can learn more about your campaign, your platform issues, and also how they can support you financially.
Yeah, so right now we're a bootstrap sort of campaign. My wife and I and a couple of Kaipu Kukui graduates are kind of just bootstrapping this, and we have a PO box, and it's Friends of Snake Patel. If you want to send direct support, it's wife's writing it down here. It's 12862. PO Box 12862, Lahaina, Hawaii 96767. If you'd like to send your support. Also, our direct email and contact is connect@joinpatel.com. So it was, it was great talking to you folks. I really want to say this too. I appreciate the work you guys are doing. This is very important. This is right in line with that transparency. I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer all your questions in maybe the most proficient way yet, but I do know that I will dig deep and I will learn and I will make mistakes, but I'll learn from those and I will do good work. Not because I'm incentivized to, because that's the right thing to do.